Thank you so much for staying with us for our annual Young Achievers Special. And joining me in this segment of the program, we have Odane Brooks, who won the Prime Minister's Youth Award for Excellence in National Leadership. Thank you so much for coming in. It's so good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I see that your eventual goal is to become a development consultant, a policy advisor to the government, as well as an academic. Now, if I spoke to you when you were 5, and I said, what do you want to be growing up? You would have probably said fireman or police or something, or pilot. You would not have said, I want to be a development consultant and a policy advisor to the government. So explain to me, like I'm 5, why you want to do that.
So at the time, I actually wanted...
Explain to me like I'm 5.
Certainly. I actually wanted to become a lawyer. But for many of us, the reality of the financing was stark. And so I say, okay, what other opportunities can enable me to advance advocacy, which I'm strong about? And so I would have said, okay, law is not the option at this point, but I can pursue public policy, because that is the best way that you can immediately impact the trajectory of the lives of Jamaicans. And so I said, okay, let me pursue public policy. And that has ultimately led to where I'm at today.
So you went to Magotty High School in St. Elizabeth. How did that shape your life?
I would say it was very instrumental. When I speak presently among my colleagues or anyone, they ask me if I went to Monroe. And I believe that because of that stereotype, which many of us have to deal with, where we go to non-traditional high schools that are not necessarily performing where we want it to perform. And so because of those stereotypes, we passionately pursue excellence so we can reverse some of those stereotypes. And at Magotty High School, it provided me with that opportunity, provided me with that space where I can come into my own as an individual, and I'm also able to develop my own persona, what I'm about. And so that environment would have cultivated ultimately who I am as an individual.
I actually love that you said that, because that, in fact, I know a number of people who have that kind of experience, and a lot of the times, so for instance, was Magotty your first choice for high school?
I don't think so.
You probably had put Monroe.
Yes.
So were you disappointed when you heard you're going to Magotty?
I would say I would have been disappointed, and especially because of the expectations individuals had. But I would say, looking back, I think it was a God-given gift to have actually attended Magotty.
And that's what I want you to zero in on. Tell me why.
I think at Magotty, because excellence is not necessarily the norm, when excellence is identified, it is celebrated.
How? Give me an instance, for instance, where you were celebrated at Magotty and it really helped your sense of self and your development.
So if I should draw on 2015, when I would have been ranked as the top performer in Cape Unit Law in the Caribbean, that was monumental for Magotty. I think that was a turning point for the institution, where there developed a sense of belief that something good can come from a Magotty High School. And I believe it propelled the mood within the institution that there are students here that will become future leaders of tomorrow. And that would have set a new trajectory. I get calls from the principal very often. I presently support them in policy development within the institution.
Like what?
So we're exploring new cell phone policy, for example. So it ushered in a new era where it is recognized by the community that you can attend a Magotty and still do well. I
love that so much, because, I mean, what I hear you saying is that, for example, at say, Campion, Immaculate, Odane, it's not unusual that you have a regional top performer at CSEC or Cape. But at Magotty, it's not something that happens every day. So when it happened for you now, it was huge for you and also huge for the school. What was the reaction of the school community when they found out?
It was a humongous reaction. I think...
Like what? What people said or did?
So People generally, we have awards ceremony at the institution, and that's a moment where administrators celebrate excellence. And people generally, when they would have heard about this, it would have brought a sense of joy and pride for them. And I really believe that it would have also inspired them to work with their child or children at the institution and to support administrators to be able to cultivate the education and the learning environment that is needed.
How did it feel for you? I mean, top achiever, not just in Jamaica, Caribbean. I mean, that is huge any way you take it. So what was that moment like for you?
I think it was vindication, because at that point I said, whilst I was disappointed to attend Magati, ultimately I can see how it has shaped my trajectory, and I'm not just another number. I am one who is a pioneering leader. I'm one who has found his voice, and that would have enabled me to develop a more self-assurance and a sure-footedness when I eventually ventured into university at UWI.
I noticed that giving back seems to be important to you. You spoke there about keeping close to your high school, and you also work in a Craigtown mentorship program. Tell me very quickly why. Why is that important?
So I would have benefited from an ecosystem of support where I had individuals who can guide and mentor me. And so I believe that it's a way of giving forward to the next generation and the present generation. So I use that as an opportunity to inspire others who might feel downtrodden and who...
Let me interrupt you there. Give me a specific example, without naming names,
yes,
of a young boy maybe that you've worked with, that you've seen the impact of that mentorship.
So within that same Craigtown mentorship program, we go into the community on a weekly basis. It is a community that is challenged by gun violence. And when we go there and we interact with them, a lot of the time we hear that the narrative that we bring, they are not hearing it very often.
Narrative meaning what?
In terms of positivity, in terms of your circumstances not necessarily defining who you are. And because of that contrast that we bring into the community, a lot of them saw hope. A lot of them were not.
Can you have one specific example you can think of, one specific
Oh, yes, I can think of a gentleman right now.
Without calling his name. Tell me the difference.
So he had a son at the time, and for him, he saw his role as being instrumental to creating an environment where his son can grow up feeling more optimistic. And because of the mentorship and the guided interventions we pursued, he was able to see that his role as a father is indispensable. And he developed a stronger fervor, I would say, as to what his role is about and why he should continue that role.
And what does it feel like for you when you do that kind of work and see that kind of transformation?
It is fulfilling because it also restores my hope that all is not lost in Jamaica. Because oftentimes when you traverse the streets, you get disheartened. But when you see these stories, you get a sense that things can change. And so it fuels me continuously to continue to pursue this line of work.
All right, so very quickly, 5 years' time, where you hope to be?
So 5 years' time, I should be a development consultant. I should be involved in innovation policy. And
what kind of change you hope to make in Jamaica or the world?
So the change I want to see in Jamaica is for us to develop a booming entrepreneurial ecosystem. So the work I do presently is attempting to do that. But to build sustainability, we have to institutionalize a lot of the initiatives so we can create an economy where all Jamaicans feel they have an ability to earn a decent living. And so my contribution will be to facilitate entrepreneurship as a means for economic growth and development.
It's interesting that you say that, but you're not yourself interested in entrepreneurship, or are you?
I wouldn't say I'm interested in entrepreneurship, but at the policy level, you have to have someone who can bring together all of the state architecture to support a thriving entrepreneurship ecosystem.
Because you're in fact working now at Development Bank of Jamaica.
I am.
Which really lays the groundwork for a lot of what you're talking about.
Indeed, and I believe that experience has shaped my outlook for the next few years. I see we have great potential. We have quite innovative Jamaicans, but with the necessary support, we can put them on a footing where they can contribute more, and we can also turn the tide in terms of low growth, low technology as a country.
Gonna have to leave it there. Thank you so much. It's been fabulous talking to you, and all the very best. I mean, you have so many areas of your resume I didn't even get to touch, but another time we talk, all right?
Thank you, Diane, for having me.